Okay, good morning, everybody. If I can have your attention, thank you. Welcome to the Tuesday, July 13 staff meeting. I will turn it over to our county manager, Tom Stoltz.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Commissioner Lopez is not here. She's still at NACO, just for the record. But we have 3 items for staff today. We will talk about, we will receive a presentation from KPTS. Victor and Terry are here from KPTS to kind of just brief the commissioners on happenings at the channel. Glenda Martins is here to talk about a couple of corrections issues. One is a board appointment, and then she's going to talk with us about what could become a legislative issue regarding pay between ISOs and court service officers, intensive service officers versus court service officers. So she'll brief you on that. And then Susan is here to talk about landfill policy. We all get complaints occasionally regarding trash along the highways and management of landfills, and Susan's just here to kind of go over the policy of the landfill and how that is ultimately reconciled for the public. So with that, Victor, I will let you take the podium and proceed, sir.
Good morning, Victor. Welcome to the meeting.
Thank you all. Good morning, Chairman and members of the Commission and County Executive Tom. And I'd like to introduce first our Development Director, Terry Brooks.
Hi, Terry.
Terry's been with us a little over a year, and she's doing a good job for us. I'm here this morning because, as you know, I've been here about, almost 5 years, October. And I took over your public television station that was almost closing its doors. It was called KPTS at the time. It's now called PBS Kansas. The reason for that name change is a bigger vision, is to represent Sedgwick County as well as to be the voice of the state as we work our way toward that goal. Things have improved for your public TV station. The viewership is up. It's like the pride of the community now, one of the prides. And I am pleased that the hard work is beginning to pay off. But you know, when I walked into that building the first time when I came to visit for the position, after managing 5 other public media stations throughout the country, and I walked out of a very nice facility. Let me just go over some of the places. Redding, California, population at the time, it was the 150th market. This is in the top 70th market, this market. Redding, California, we were able to build a beautiful facility for that station. Then I moved to, I began in Rockford, Illinois when I built the first one. Then I built upon that experience in Rockford and then went on to Chattanooga, Tennessee and built a much better facility for the community, 35,000 square feet, supported by the county, the city, the people of the community. And then I came here and I walked into that building and I said, oh no, came close to saying thanks but no thanks. But then I decided that's part of the challenge, to turn it around. But the first part of the challenge was to get a hold of the financial picture and get it straightened out. We've done that. We're doing that every day. The next thing was to build that image, make it better. I think we're doing that every day, more and more. And that's why we also changed the name, the brand. And the next step is a better image overall in terms of the building for the station. And so I'm pleased that if you have this document in front of you with the current picture and the floor plan, you can see the current facility that we have. a former tire store that we've been occupying over 40 years. The station could not raise money to even buy equipment, from what I understand. But we were able now, because of the change in direction, because of the local programs that we do, the station now is the voice and platform of our community. I mean, with all due respect, the commercial stations, they are here, but their bottom line is money. And they do news for that purpose. And if it bleeds, it leads, as you well know. Well, that's not our interest. We're here to serve the interest, convenience, and necessity of our public, with great local programs, mixing them up with the national programs, the music, the drama, the dance, the operas, and ballets, and everything else, and great other national documentaries. When we produced BTK Killer's documentary, it became #1 in the market, in the ratings. Then we also we put it on YouTube. It exceeded 1 million views on YouTube. We did Joyland. That was a big hit. Then we did The Pie Way, Kansas Style. That was another big hit. All these documentaries we've been producing, including the latest one, Kansas Baseball, Swinging for the Fences. In mixing those documentaries up with all the weekly programs that we do, we have about, I think, 7, 8 weekly shows, and we keep adding more, including a local cooking show with Susan Peters that is beginning on PBS Kansas. And so, my friends, we were able to get a handful of donors who saw the need for a better facility and a better image for the station, because a better image leads to better support and more pride from the community. And they were able to give us some funding. We found this building, Merit Trust, former headquarters, and they gave us a good price on it, $3 million. This building, the contractor said, if we were to build it, it would cost us about $8-9 million from scratch. So $3 million, thanks to Meritrust. We appreciate that. But they went a step further because they believe in public television, like you do. And they took it a step further by donating all of the beautiful furniture in that building to the station, about $800,000 worth. And then we got a loan for the other half of the purchase from Fidelity Bank. So we are putting down the 1.5, and we're closing on this deal on Friday, by the way. So I hope you're proud of your public TV station and what we're doing. I hope you will exhibit that pride through your support. And what we're doing is we're not asking you for $500,000 or $1 million. No. Simply $100,000 to sponsor the community room. Because the community room will be open to the public. If groups would like to have meetings in that room, it is an opportunity to just call your favorite public television station and say, my group would love to have a meeting. Is your room available? The Sedgwick County Community Room. Would that be available? Yes, we'll schedule it for the public's use. We will also run some spots on television notifying the public that this room is available for public use. Call and schedule it. The Sedgwick County Community Room. So that's what we're asking you to sponsor. The Studio A is taken, Studio B is gone. We have that room or the boardroom or the lobby, one of the 3 highly visible places. You can pick one from, but I personally propose the community room for the price of only $100,000. And the price is $100,000, and that's a low price, as you all know, because we didn't have to build the building. We need to raise $1.6 million to renovate, put the studios in the building and set up the technical areas in this building. And that's why we need some extra help here. And that's why I'm here asking you for that extra help. In addition to that, we're asking you for an additional help of $58,000 for a microwave system to continue coverage of the county meeting, because right now, from the new location, the signal will be blocked by buildings on the campus of Wichita State. And so we need to send the signal with 2 hops, and they will require 2 microwave systems. And then one of your staff members has requested that we also have redundancy, which would mean a little more money, meaning a 3rd system that would be a backup system, just in case. Lady and gentlemen, it's a beautiful thing for your public TV station. I think you'll be prouder that, I mean, just look at the facility. And the reason we need the space is we're busting out of the seams in the current building. And with the new facility, we have become more creative. The studio will be large enough to bring in other performing groups, singing groups, dance groups, the symphony, and all of these things. That's part of the vision of the station. Creativity will be top of our list, improving the programming, the local programs that we do. So that's it in a nutshell, and I'll shut up for any questions you may have.
Okay. Thank you, Victor, for the update and all the information that you presented. Does the commissioners have any comments or questions for Victor? So I don't, but Commissioner Cruz.
What is the address again? Where's the new location?
It is 8710 East, 32nd Street. It's on top of the, do you have one of these?
I don't.
I don't either.
You have, all right. I thought you did, I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I know you have it, Jen. So I'll show this one.
And you can have mine if you run out.
Thank you. Thank you.
Here's one more. Terry. Thank you.
You see this?
You can see it's a beautiful facility.
Right.
And, something else I have to point out. In this building, you see a Children's Education and Discovery Center. No other public TV station that I know of would have this, a place such as that, where kids can come in and they will have interactive experiences, because we will have various companies and organizations set up interactive experiences. And there's a reading room in that area. It's right to the front right side of the building. We also have our PBS Kansas Museum, because stuff at PBS Channel 8, the things, some of the equipment are so old that we thought we should put them on display instead of throwing them away. That's how much the station has been struggling.
Victor, Commissioner Dennis has a question or comment.
Thank you. Thank you, Victor. Just one quick question. Why do we have to shoot it by microwave over there when we've got internet and so forth? Isn't there any other way of getting the signal to you?
You can do that through fiber optic cable. And internet, if it's clean, sure, we can do that too.
Okay, that's my only question right
Yeah.
now. Thank you.
Commissioner Howell.
Well, thank you. And Victor, thank you for being here. I would say I've watched KPTS for a very long time, and I would say I agree with you that when you took the lead position here, I think it has really changed the public opinion of KPTS entirely. I think you've done a tremendous job. Thank you for your leadership there.
Thank you.
As you and I talked about this in the past, can you talk a little bit about the fact that this ask today could be spread out over a period of time.
Yes.
Please talk about that. I may have another comment after that. Thank you.
All right, if you look at the bottom left of the document you just received, it breaks it down for you. You can pay it over in one lump sum, which we'll enjoy having, or you can do it in 2 parts or 3 parts or 4 parts. We encourage the most 4 years because we need the funds to pay the contractor. And any leftover funds will go toward the loan, because I don't enjoy having to pay a monthly mortgage payment to the bank for a public TV station.
Just another comment. Thank you. First of all, I'm excited about the new building for you all. I think it's certainly something that you need, and I'm glad you guys found a great solution. I think this is a beautiful building. I would say I also appreciate the local programming that you provide. I don't know of any other place where the community can access, if you will, locally generated programming that's consistently available on the on any place. And so,
Right.
I think one of the shows I'd like to watch is Kansas Week. I'm sure I actually record it and watch it every single time it has a production. And I learn a great deal. So thank you for allowing me to do that. And I think it's great. It's a great resource for the community. I would just say I've not looked at the dollars on this within the budget. I don't know if the manager has a plan on how we would fund this through the budget. I'd like to hear that, and then I think I have a final comment after that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We will be talking with you one-on-one about potential here and the ramifications and impact the budget. And the commission will have, it'd be a policy decision for the commission.
And so, yeah, thank you. And I do appreciate you getting your broadcast put on YouTube TV, because that's exactly how I watch it all the time. I use that, my streaming channel. That's how I get the program. I don't do it over the air, but people can look at this a number of different ways. And so that's another great thing you've done, is you've added that. And I think through conversations that we've had.
Yeah, you can also watch us on online,
Right.
kpts.org, live stream.
And I'll just say also, if the people watching this today don't know this, but you actually have a studio here in our community, in our BOCC room today, and we do broadcast on KPTS our regularly scheduled BOCC meetings, and it goes all the way to Western Kansas.
Right.
I get comments from people who live in Garden City, for example, about things we're dealing with here in Sedgwick County. And I know that this is also rebroadcast, and so there's a lot of opportunity for the public to, I guess, access their government through KPTS, which is, I don't know what our yearly contract is with KPTS right now, or I should say Kansas, or PBS Kansas. But I do know that it's a fair amount of money, but I think we get a good deal as well. So, considering the magnitude of our relationship, the road that basically is around those meetings being broadcast, I think this is a good thing for us to get involved in. I love the fact that this would have our name on the wall of the room, and we'd have recognition for the community, supporting the community through providing a community meeting space. That'd be great. Thank you.
And in addition to that, you get the spots that will promote the availability of the use of the community room by groups.
Okay. Victor, I don't see other comments. Again, thank you for the information, and we'll get back with you, I'm sure. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. Tom, next up.
Commissioners, next we'll have Glenda talk about correction board appointment and then a couple of other issues dealing with corrections.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, County Manager and the leadership team. Today, I'm here to talk to you about our Community Advisory Board. I have 2 vacant positions on the adult board. I'll just remind you, it's a statute-required board, and the membership requirements require that at least 2 members of the Corrections Advisory Board be representative of ethnic minorities, and no more than 2/3 of the members shall not be of the same sex. Well, I have 2 vacancies, and I had 3 applicants, which I interview. And so I know someone's not going to be appointed to that board. I let them know that when I'm talking to them, so they understand that. I had 3 wonderful applicants. It's not a matter of sometimes just choosing which I think may be the better fit. I had Patricia Houston apply for the board. She's very active in the community, comes highly recommended, has a totally different perspective, and works with the city right now. I've worked with her on some other issues with leadership, community leadership, and on violence prevention. And then I had Janet Federico also apply. She is newer to the community, but has some background in domestic violence. And Community Corrections has a new program we're putting in place called BIP, Batterers Intervention Program, and I think she would be a good member as well on that board. And then we had Frederic Freeman, who had applied as well on the board. He wants to be involved in the community. He has some great ideas and solutions for adult corrections. So those were my 3 applicants, and I am recommending Patricia Houston and Janet Federico.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay. And I believe that'll probably come up tomorrow on the agenda
Okay.
for
All right.
tomorrow.
Well, thank you for the background and the presentation. I know your history seems to you thoroughly vet these people and interview them, and so I appreciate you sharing. I don't see any comments at this time. If
Okay.
you want to proceed, so thank
Okay.
you for the information.
So now I want to talk to you a little bit about what's happening in the state right now with court services and community corrections, which is the same, would be an intensive supervision officer. We call them ISOs. So just to update you, court services is a probation department that supervises low to moderate offenders. And they are operated through OJA, which is the Office of Judicial Administration, through the courts. They have just recently received another 5% increase in their salary. They were at $20.66 per hour, which boasts their salary now up to $21.70. Over the course of 2008 to 2020, they have received an increase in pay of 30%. In community corrections, our officers supervise the moderate to high-risk offenders. They do cognitive behavior groups and treatment. They do case planning. They do a way more intensive probation. And yet our officers are currently getting paid at $16.98 per hour. That's a $4.72 difference. And the problem that we're seeing that's coming our way is that the state also opened new positions here, even in district court. So they have 4 vacant positions right now, and they are going to have 5 more. I believe that will also increase by next year. So that'll be 9 positions, and I have officers applying for those jobs. That's going to be a problem for us. We're going to be losing some very valuable employees that have been trained, are educated, and work with high and moderate risk offenders, and then they're going to be paid a higher salary and go to work for court services. So we're real nervous about that, because if I lose 9 of my employees, that's going to be 20% of my ISOs. we already have high caseloads. The state, we have been talking to them for years about increased funding. We have written letters, or my advisory board has written letters. We have talked to KDOC. But for whatever reason, we're not getting any increased funding. As a matter of fact, I received less funding this year in my adult side, about $151,000. This makes it more difficult for us. And so my plan is I want to really reach out to some of our legislators and talk to them and have a meeting and talk to them about the Department of Corrections and our needs. We need them to understand we are different than court services, and they need to fund us appropriately. The county picks up some of the differences, and we appreciate that greatly, but it's not going to cut mustard. We're going to continue to lose people and have higher caseloads and more intense people that we have to supervise. So I just wanted to let you guys know what was going on in the state. I want to invite some of our legislators to meet with some of my employees and my staff and my supervisors to talk about salaries and programming and the things that we're doing and the need for them to support us. So.
Okay. That sounds like a logical thing for us to put on our legislative agenda for going into next year.
Thanks, Chairman. A couple of issues here. First of all, I think it's almost a legislative platform kind of item.
I agree.
I'm not sure with timing, and I think what Glenda is seeking here is the commission's blessing, basically, to reach out to legislators at the state, and I would hope that the commission would support her in that, and maybe try to do something now. I mean, if we put through the platform, I mean, before we get action, we're looking at a year, basically. And I think that with her staffing crisis as it is today, which now could get worse because of this move, I think we ought to look at maybe more immediate resolution to this. So I just want to make commission aware. I think Glenda wanted to make the commission aware. We will help her. Akeem will help her write up a one-pager to summarize this succinctly for our legislators to grasp. I'm not even sure. I think our our local delegation is probably aware of it. I don't know that they know the magnitude of it, and we owe it to them to communicate. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at today. I just thought it was important that you be brought up to speed on this.
Glenda, traditionally, have you had a lot of meetings with local legislators, South Central Kansas and others?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really. Periodic discussions with them individually, but not as a whole. And I don't know if, I really don't know if they grasp how the salary issue presents itself to us. OJA just did a fabulous job going into the legislature to advocate for more money and better pay for their employees. And it didn't happen for KDOC. And so that now there's this huge discrepancy that exists.
Commissioner Cruz?
Thank you, Chairman. Glenda, thank you for being here today. What you do is vitally important to the whole system. And I think and also what you do is pretty complicated in nature. And so I wonder, I am completely supportive of meeting with them, and I think now it really is the time since they're kind of out of session. Do you have something that you have scheduled, or are you waiting for us to say go?
Well, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So how quickly do you if it's approved? How
I would
quickly do you
certainly
wanna-
like to do this in August.
Okay.
Soon. I want to invite them and have some discussion. Invite yourselves if you want to be there to really educate them on what's happening in Sedgwick County. And we continue to tell our partners that Sedgwick County is really different. There's not another county like Sedgwick County. And we're not getting the assistance that we need from the state level.
Well, I'd definitely like to be involved, and I am supportive of this. Thank you for being here today and sharing
Thank you.
your concerns with us.
Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a couple of questions. Thank you for all you do for Sedgwick County. I'm extremely impressed with you, Glenda. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Those numbers you gave us, the 1698 and the 2117, those numbers, are those starting wage numbers?
Yes, yes.
Do we have data talks about the spread of salary, for example, like tiers and things like how many of our employees are at that level versus how many, what's their cap and are they maxed? It'd be good to have more data about the salary structure of our employees versus their employees rather than just the start number.
Yes, I do. I have a copy of their most recent pay grades and where they start at and where they can go versus where ours are at. I would say, I also sit on the Community Corrections Advisory Board, and that is about that's 6 of us, larger districts that meet regularly with the secretary, and we have put it in our annual report every year. We have talked about till we're blue in the face about the salary discrepancies between court services, community corrections, and parole. And community corrections is always the low end of that spectrum.
I know that you said that some of the funding comes from county and some of the funding comes from state, but can you break that down about what percentage of the salary is from local versus state on what we're paying our ISOs?
I don't have that in my head. I can get that
Yeah, I
for
think
you.
I'd like to understand that more deeply.
I think Lindsay might be listing. Let me see if we can get that information.
Sure, that'd be great. Do you know how many CSOs or ISOs we have in Sedgwick County? Can we understand?
I know how many ISOs I have. I have 74. I don't know how many CSOs they have here in Sedgwick County.
4 open positions. If
They
7,
have 4 open positions, and they're getting 5 new vacant positions.
so in theory, it could be,
I could lose 9 people.
Right.
I could lose 9 of my people, because I know 10 have already applied. I
Okay.
could lose them all to court services. And for us, that's a huge loss, because we have already trained them. They already are familiar with all the assessment tools. That's a lot of time and money. I would say we lose the benefit of them it'll take a year to replace them.
Okay. And just to clarify, these are the CSOs, those are judicial employees, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, they're
Just
state, yeah, they're managed by OJA.
I'm just saying, are they under the judicial branch or the corrections branch? They're probably not part of the judicial branch. They're actually essentially managed, if you will, through the court system, actually hires them and manages the CSOs.
Right.
Okay. Just my experience, if we're asking for some type of resolution before July 1st of next year, then we probably need to also talk to the LCC, the Legislative Coordinating Council, because they actually have authority to do some things like legislation without actually passing bills. They can actually vote and do some temporary things that would be necessary for a short-term solution, maybe get us to that July 1st date. And so, no offense to the South Central Legislative Delegation, as I was chair of that at one point, and I have that experience, and I love what they do. They're great people, but they don't really have a lot of power outside the session. So they might be very committed to the idea of addressing this, but every time we have an ask of the legislature that deals with money, those are the hardest policy issues to pass. And I think it's certainly worthy. It's worthwhile to meet with them and to convince them and hopefully get them to support this. But they're not going to be able to do anything between now and passing a budget next year, whereas the LCC potentially could. So I would recommend we meet with both, and one of those would probably require a trip to Topeka.
Okay.
So I'd be glad to help you with that, or at least be a participant if you want me to help with that. I'm glad to help if if that is useful to you. Thank you for all you do here.
Okay. Glenda, I don't see any other comments. So,
Chairman, I
don't
do
see
have
any-
Lindsay researching Commissioner Howell's question. I think she's looking right now, and we could
Okay.
maybe proceed ahead, but she will report back in when she gets that information, so you'll have
So
it.
I don't,
Tom, I'm here and I do have it if now's a good time.
Very good.
Okay, so looking at the adult services programs only, since that's where I think the bulk of this conversation is focused, it looks like about 2/3 to 1/3 are funded by state versus county general fund dollars.
okay. Thank you.
Sure.
So Glenda, I don't see any, I don't hear any objection to you moving forward with communicating
Thank
sooner than later with your local delegation. And I assume that we all can maybe help bridge some of those meetings.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for all you do.
Last but not least is the landfill discussion. So Susan's here to take us through that.
Susan, good morning and welcome to the meeting.
Thank you. I know all of you have received complaints recently and past years about roadside litter. I know it's unsightly to look at. There are other issues associated with it as well. I'd like to review the complaints you've received and some problems associated with that, what causes them, and at least one potential solution. The complaints range across the county. We've had complaints along Highway K42, and they contributed it to the transfer trucks going to Plum Thicket Landfill in Harper County. They kept saying it's due to those trash trucks going down K42. We've also received complaints about litter along K96 that were contributed to one of the construction and demolition landfills up there on the south side of K96. That's called CDR North. And it was due to their operations. And another complaint more recently about the Meridian K96 235 interchange, and that they said were due to unsecured loads going to Brooks Construction and Demolition Landfill, which is on the north side of K96. So I'd like to walk through these complaints with you. But let's start with how our municipal solid waste, or also nicknamed MSW, is collected. That's what you and I put out at the curb weekly, or what's picked up at the businesses in our community. There are 16 different companies licensed to collect municipal solid waste here in Sedgwick County. Usually the picture you see on the left is what you see coming by your street, your home, to pick up your trash. It's called a garbage packer truck. It has I'll describe it as a huge plunger inside that compresses the trash over the route so they can put more trash in. So you have the trash into a smaller volume. And usually they pick up 8 to 10 tons of trash before they have to take it to the disposal facility. On the right is a picture of a dumpster like you'd see outside apartments or businesses where they put the trash in those. And then that's taken to either the transfer station, if it's residential type or business trash, or construction and demolition landfills if it comes from a construction or demolition site. Unfortunately, sometimes those dumpsters are overpacked, as you see in this photo. And when that happens and the company shows up to pick it up, they will not pick it up. They charge the people who had that dumpster a false alarm fee, which is usually $100, to say, we came out there, it was overloaded, can't shut the lid to keep the trash in it, make it so that the trash is compacted inside it, or pull stuff out, and we'll bring you in an empty dumpster after we take this one. This sort of thing happens all the time, and unfortunately it may not be the people who had the dumpster who overloaded it, but what we call midnight dumpsters, where people see a dumpster, need something big they want to get rid of, and toss it in someone else's dumpster so they don't have to pay for it. But someone's paying for it in the end. So when they come, they do make sure that they can close the lid on this before they collect the dumpster, or else they just turn away. Also, as you may see, a lot of the garbage trucks that go along the residential roads are now automated. They'll pick up the cart and they don't have to get out of the truck at all unless you have something beside the cart. And they put it over the top of the truck, shake it, the trash falls into the truck most of the time. If there's a large wind, some of that's going to blow around the neighborhood and not make it in the truck if it's lightweight material. County currently has solid waste codes, and I've highlighted in red what pertains to this, and that's when you have collection, weekly residential waste, it must be transported in an enclosed vehicle or enclosed container in such a manner as to prevent littering. So we have something on the books right now to try to keep that material from your home or business that goes to the disposal facility from blowing around. As you and I well know, that doesn't always happen. Some of it will escape. The facilities I mentioned are on this map. If you see the area in blue, that's Brooks C&D landfill. The area in red is CDR North C&D landfill. And just kind of within that red area, you see a green area. That's Waste Connections transfer station. Brooks is owned and operated by the city of Wichita. The other two are privately owned. You see K96 goes between the two C&D landfills. Off to the right of that, you see the Arkansas River, and on the northeast or upper right portion of this, you'll see the moorings, and they've made some of the complaints, and I'll be mentioning that. Down to the middle right of this photo, you'll see the interchange, and that's K96 to the left. Going south is 235, and east of that is 235, and your meridian comes off of that interchange. So let's first look at Waste Connections transfer station. You can see the top of the main building is the largest structure there. Traffic would flow in from the pointer will work. From 37th Street, which runs east and west. The truck would come up, go across a tipping scale where it's weighed. Then it goes inside the building. The trash is dumped inside the building. Then they exit, weighed again to see how much of it was truck weight versus trash weight. Then they exit the building. On the south side of the building down here is a lower area where the transfer trucks, you can see one sitting in this location with the red cab, will go into the building. It's on a lower level, so the trash is dumped on a concrete floor, then it's pushed in the top of the truck. Truck exits the building, comes out on the right, they tarp it and leave and go to the landfill. Here's a side view of the building. You can see the large bays on the right where the trash trucks will enter and dump inside the building. And here's a picture inside the building to give you an idea of, we produce over 1,000 tons of trash per day in our community that goes through the transfer station. This is a transfer station down south that's closed right now. It's was owned by Waste Disposal, and they closed it, renovated it. Waste Connections has contacted me at the end of last year saying they've purchased it, but they haven't opened it yet. But that's at Hoover and 55th Street South. So hopefully that will open again and we'll have two transfer stations going. You can see by this map, you have Waste Connections, the yellow dot at the north. You have, the trucks would get on 235, go around, get off on K42. Waste Disposal Inc. is this orange dot down here. They would take some road over to K42, then traffic goes down to Plum Thicket Landfill, which is owned by Waste Connections. And here's a picture of the trucks used by the transfer stations, owned by a company called MBI. They're contracted with them. You can see the tarp on the top of that semi that they stretch down to hold the trash. I personally have followed these trucks down to the landfills, and only once have I ever seen one piece of plastic work its way out from under the tarp. All the other times I've seen nothing come out from these trucks. I've also had my staff go down and look along the highway as well. Here's Plum Thicket Landfill. You can see the transfer trailer part is disconnected from the cab. It's on a tilting floor that picks it up, and all of the trash comes out due to gravity, dumps in the landfill, they reconnect, come back and get another load. So that's going on all day. Our investigation into this, most complaints happen in the wintertime where you have a lack of grass, so it's easier to see litter along K42, and especially after high winds. And I personally have witnessed trash blowing out of the back of pickup trucks as they travel along K42. I've seen hands come out of vehicles and purposely drop a bag from some fast food place or a cup as they're throwing litter out of the car as they're driving. In high winds, some of the houses along there, we've seen the trash cans blown over and the trash from the cans blowing across K42, and they get caught in the barbed wire. So there's a lot of sources for highway trash. And Waste Connections does, on a quarterly basis, hire workers to go along and pick up trash along K42. Whether they caused it or not, they're picking up the litter along that highway. They've also done it when we've received complaints and I've called them, and off schedule they'll go out there, hire workers to pick up the litter along K42. So that's one of the complaints we've received. We've also received complaints about both of the construction and demolition landfills up north. CDR North is on the south side of K96. Has gone through numerous ownerships through time. Right now it's owned by Summit Mountain, operated by Cornejo. Brooks C&D landfills on the north side of K96, owned by the city of Wichita. Let's first look at CDR North. It's, again, the red area here on the aerial view. And a close-up of it, you can see that they've been working along the outer edges of the C&D, and then they'll be filling it in toward the inside. And that's what's caused the problem, is this northern edge along K96. When they receive a permit from the state to build a facility like this, the state limits the height of the landfill, the final slope. They require that it's covered and seeded with grass and maintained. So what CDR North was doing recently, and here's a picture along K96, that north face, they had reached the height, they were filling in material to get the proper slope, and then this used to be visual construction and demolition material all along this area, and this is being covered, it's totally covered now, and they have grass on it. You can see the picture now of this. But while it was exposed, anyone driving along K96 could see that. High winds could pick material up and blow it out of their area, over the fence, and along the road. And people contributed all of the litter along K96 to this landfill because it was visual. I'm going to say I'm sure some of it was from them, but I'm sure some of it wasn't, especially complaints from 5 to 6 miles west of here, where you have a big curve along K96 for 3 miles to take people further north. I had complaints that the litter from here was at Mays Road and K96. We usually don't have east winds in our community. So because it was visual, everything was contributed to this landfill. On the west side, you can see that they've been finishing that side as well, final covers going on, and they're going to be working internally, so you won't be able to see their operations as well. And now if you look north of that, Brooks Construction and Demolition Landfill, the working face is here to the north. And let me back up one second. Again, here's the Ark River and the moorings. The working face is here. People who live in the moorings can see that working face, where the people driving along K96 saw the working face of CDR North, but not the Brooks. So that's why the moorings have been complaining about Brooks C&D landfill. They can visually see it. I've had complaints of litter blowing from that working face. And here's a picture of the working face. that it's been going into the river, litters in the Ark River from this, and in their trees in their neighborhood from blowing material from that landfill. And this is a picture still on the Brooks construction demolition site, and you can see litter all across the area, and there's the Ark River. Here, moorings is over in this area. So winds happen. These facilities, usually when wind gets above 30 miles per hour, shut down and don't receive any trash, because as the trucks are dumping the material, it's going to blow out of the trucks and not go straight down where it's heading. We have regulations right now that say the facility for both transfer stations and C&D landfills must, within a half-mile radius of the facility, be kept reasonably free of debris, litter, and vectors being animals. And that's resulting from the operation of the transfer station and the construction and demolition landfills. So we have regulations out there, and here's a picture taken within the last 2 weeks when we were inspecting, and that's CDR guys out there along 37th Street picking up the litter. I've talked to KDOT, and they can work with these guys to give them permits to pick up along K96. I've actually seen KDOT out there along these stretches, and they actually hire, or I could say use inmates to pick up the litter along the highway. KDOT also has roadside litter programs such as Adopt a Highway. The county also has Adopt a Highway on our county roads, where organizations will volunteer to go out. They have to have the proper protective equipment to use so they're not hit by any cars, follow the guidelines, and pick up trash along the highway. County also has a special cleanup program where we work with townships where they pick up the litter along the township roads. We will pay for the disposal of that material where they're providing the manpower. Since we started that program in 2002, we've collected over 2 million pounds of material that the county's disposed of, and just last year was over 53,000 pounds. But there's another issue, and that's what we need to look at today, unsecured loads. And that's what the people at the moorings were complaining about for the material at that interchange of 96, 235, and Meridian, that large objects were being found along the road. They're a safety issue. It's a hazard to have something in the road that could be hit by a car, or a car swerves to miss that and hits another vehicle or flips over. As you can see here, if it's not secured, it can easily leave a vehicle. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I have been driving down the road and seen people with mattresses on the top of their cars, and the driver's hand out over here holding the mattress, and the passenger's hand out holding the mattress. That doesn't work when, especially at high speeds. You can't hold it down that well. So that's a problem. Or plywood that won't fit in the car, you see it on top, and the same thing happening. People don't always take proper material to tie it down, and I'm not talking lightweight twine. And this happened in 2019 on 135 in Park City. A rod left a vehicle. It was not secured. It went through the windshield of that car, and the officers investigating it said, had there been a passenger in that right seat, they would have been killed, because that went right through where the chest would have been of that person, and it went into the back seat area as well. So this is something local that happened within the last 2 years. When we had our waste tire event this year, we had a highway patrolman come in and sit there to watch the loads and see if they were secured. And I talked to him, and he said the reason for this is a couple of years ago, he worked an accident where there was a tire in the road, a vehicle hit it, flipped, and killed the female driver. And he worked that accident, and so this was near and dear to him. It had nothing to do with one of our tire events, but he knew we were having the event, and he wanted to come and make sure everything looked good. So he sat there for a couple of hours just to watch the loads, and they were all tied well, but that's something we need to look at with our events. AAA has done studies. They did a 4-year study from 2011 to 2014 and said road debris caused more than 200,000 crashes, 39,000 injuries, 500 deaths, and 37% of those were caused by swerving to avoid debris in the road. AAA also says that every state right now has some sort of regulations that say it's illegal for items to fall from a vehicle while on the road. Fines range from $10 to $5,000. 16 states list jail time as possible punishment. In Kansas, again, I put all of the regulation there, but what pertains to this is highlighted in red. The vehicles have to be loaded as to prevent any of its load from dropping, sifting, leaking, or otherwise escaping therefrom, except that, and I'm not going to go into this, the next part is the exception. It's basically livestock trailers. I don't know if you've ever been behind a livestock trailer when you're driving and a cow lets loose, but it's hard to see after that. And I've had it happen to me where the windshield gets it and you have to pull off and clean it so you can see. But that's an exception. They'll let that pass, so to speak. Then the regulation goes on, load the vehicle and any covering thereon is securely fastened so as to prevent the covering of load from becoming loose, detached, or in any manner a hazard to other users of the highway. Our county does not have specific regulations addressed to this for our officers, but they can enforce the state statutes. City of Wichita has an ordinance on secured loads. Loaded is to prevent any of the load from dropping, sifting, leaking, or otherwise escaping therefrom. Sounds familiar to the state, except that this section should not prohibit the necessary spreading of any substance in highway maintenance or construction operations. They also go on to say the securely fastened load and covering from becoming loose, detached. So basically following the highway regulations. Brooks C&D landfill also, and I took this straight from their website, has a secured load and an unsecured load fee. So if you go into the facility and you don't have a secured load, it's a $50 a ton. If it is secured, it's $34.50 a ton. Talking to the gate people there, the person who's only been there a couple of years said they've never done the unsecured load charge since she's been there. Another person said they've rarely done it, who had been there longer. Checking just nearby a couple of counties, Butler, Harvey, they double the normal disposal rate if there's an unsecured load. And Douglas County, Nebraska, which is where Omaha is, they add another $10.50 to their fee. So do we want to look at unsecured loads and make a policy that the load has to be secured? Do we, at a minimum, educate the public on the safety features, not just the unsightliness of litter along the road, but it is a safety issue? We can do more research on what other communities are doing, work with the solid waste disposal facilities, because Butler and Harvey County have an advantage we don't. They own those facilities, where ours are either by the City of Wichita or privately owned, so it's a little more difficult for us to look into ways to implement penalties of unsecured loads going to the disposal facilities. It's done across the nation, but county doesn't have that in our regulations, and I've been talking to Justin about it, and he's been doing some research on it. But the question is, do we continue down this road? Do you want us to do some more investigation? It would include defining what is an unsecured load, how do you determine that? What is the penalty amount and what's that based on? Or any other considerations that you might have, like increased public education on this topic. Thank you, and I'll be happy to enter, questions or have a discussion. And that picture on the left, by the way, was someone who ran over roofing nails and they've removed 20 of them from the tires. And you can see what the plywood did to that car. So it's, like I said, it's unsightly, it's a safety issue, and I'd like to get some input from the commission on our next steps on where you'd like to see us head, more research, come back with some options, and Justin's here from legal as well to help answer any questions.
Okay, Susan, thank you. Once again, incredibly thorough with your information, and it's much appreciated.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cruz?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Susan, for being here today. I have received a lot of concerns about this as these landfills reside in my district. I wonder if there would be a way to condense some of this information so that it's easily digestible by the community. And also, I'd like to have just a discussion at my Citizens Advisory Board about this so that I can give some an opportunity for folks to ask you directly the questions. What kind of communication do we have on a regular basis with these landfills? Is there a schedule? I see that they have gone out and started picking stuff up, but I think it needs to be more readily communicated as to when the schedule is as to when they're going to pick it up, the trash on the side of the road, So would you be willing to do that?
Sure. One part of your question, we go out and inspect weekly at the facilities and talk to them about the litter problem. When the winds are so high, like we've had back, in the spring, we had really large winds. They don't go out to pick up because as soon as you pick up, something is blown from your hand and it's a defeated problem. But I'll be happy to go to any DAB board meeting and do a presentation and discuss this and have input from the DAB board and what they'd like to see.
Now, with the Brooks landfill, we have all sorts of regulations around. Here recently we've had a ton of conversations around boat storage and RV storage and all of the barriers that have to be around those kinds of facilities. What kinds of barriers and sort of cover has to be around a landfill so that when people are in the moorings, if they're on their deck and they can see over, that's one thing, but if they're standing on the ground, can they see? What kind of regulations are we putting in place around a barrier? Is there one?
There are landscape regulations and fencing regulations. However, the highest point in Sedgwick County is Brooks landfill. You can see downtown from the top of there. And any trees you plant around for landscaping only are so high. And if you're at the top working your way down, building this, it's going to blow over the trees. So even though there are landscaping issues, nature wins on this one. And the best they do is they do shut down with the high winds and don't let any trucks dump. They do go out and collect litter. Some of it's going to escape the property.
What kind of recycling programs? It sounds like if we recycled more, maybe we'd have less trash. What kinds of programs do you have on the books to educate the community about recycling instead of throwing away?
We have on our website a recycling guide, and you can click on it by category: paper, plastic, metal, electronics, and find out what businesses in town will take those. It gives the address and phone number so people can contact the business to see what their hours are, because we tried putting that on, but hours change over time, so it's more like contact them directly to get the price, if there is one. And businesses sometimes, when we contact them about, do you want on our guide, say, no, we can't handle too many customers. So we also have businesses contact us, say, hey, we're new in town, can you add us to your guide? And we say, sure. So we have that interactive guide. We have handouts that we give, like at our electronic waste event. Every customer who came through got a recycling guide so they could have that. And we go out and give presentations. Of course, with COVID, that hasn't happened
Sure.
in a while. But
Yeah.
yes, but we go out to organizations, civic groups, schools, and give presentations.
Well, you've always been very responsive, and I know you're doing what you can. So I know you're doing what you can. So I appreciate the time and effort that you've put in here, and I look forward to having this discussion at the Citizens Advisory Board level
okay.
to make sure that we get those questions answered directly from citizens.
Okay,
So thank you so much.
I'm sorry I called it DAB earlier because the city council's actually had me go to their DAB boards as well and
That's
give
okay.
presentations.
We know what you meant.
Commissioner Dose?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome today. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
A couple things on your next steps to address. All of the waste collection facilities are not under the control of Sedgwick County. It's either the city of Wichita or private organizations.
Right.
So I don't know how we would define penalties from Sedgwick County on unsecured loans, or unsecured loads, rather.
And that's the issue Justin and I have been discussing. Is it a fee or a fine? How do we ask a private company to implement this? What court system would it go to? All of those are, if you want us to look into it more, we can look into it and come back and say, here's the options. All of those facilities are licensed by the county. We have regulations already on the books governing those facilities. This is something we would have to add, just like we have in there that they have to pick up litter within half a mile of their facility. We could add this, but I would want them on board as a partner at the beginning and talk to them about what would work, can it work?
And I guess the other option, we'd have to get the sheriff involved, but he's got so many other things that he's involved in that getting the sheriff involved is a difficult situation too.
Absolutely, even though that they can enforce the state regulations right now, there's only so many sheriff's officers and they have other things to do. This is addressing one way of trying to make sure loads are secured, at least going to the disposal facilities. It doesn't cure all of the unsecured loads that are out there.
Okay. Well, my district, K42, is an area that I continue to get complaints on. So, again, I think it's a good idea if you come again to our Citizens Advisory Board and kind of let our citizens advisors know what's going on. Maybe they can help us a little bit in the community. Another thing is we may need to define what an unsecured load is. Do you put straps over the top? Do you tie it down with a rope, or do you have to have a tarp?
Yeah, and some of that could be obvious, like if it's loose leaves, you'd want a tarp over it. But if it's concrete, if it's large blocks, do you really need much of anything? If it's loose sand, you'd want a tarp. So what could be just strapped versus tarped? And I'd hate to say that. Obviously, if something got out, it was not secured enough, but we need some guidelines and look at that and see what other communities are doing, and that's where research would come in on. We don't need to reinvent the wheel if we can look to see what others are doing.
Okay. Well, I know along K42 there is a lot of trash occasionally in the ditches, and I can't believe that that's all blowing from people's dumpsters that they've got their private homes and so forth. It has to be coming out of those trucks.
Like I said, I followed them myself. You can see how well tarped they are, but I've also seen a lot coming out of vehicles on those same trips.
Well, I just can't believe that the quantity can be coming out of vehicles. We'd have to have a lot of people throwing stuff out all the time.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Howell?
Thank you, Chairman. Just a thought, but it seems like some places we go around, there may be some informational signs that would kind of tell people what's expected and possibly what would happen if you don't comply with the idea. Would it be reasonable to put some signs up along the highways that approach these landfills for a number of miles? Put up a couple of signs that talks about, there's you must secure your load, and if you don't secure the load, that there's a possibility of whatever fine. Just inform people of the risk that they take when they don't secure their load. I think that just putting that thought out there, I think, would do a lot to helping people understand they do have a responsibility to secure the load and and they put themselves at risk if they don't do that.
Yes, and talking to other communities, when they have put in the secured and unsecured load fee differential, the secured load has increased immensely. So very few unsecured loads coming in after the fees were implemented. So yes, education can be signs before you get to the facility. What we don't want, though, is for people to say, I'm not going to pay that, and they turn around and go on a township road and dump there. So we need to educate the public in a positive way on what the damages are from this, and the fact that if we go down the route of a fee, that it could be an increased fee for disposal.
Do we know whether the roads that approach these landfills, are they all KDOT controlled roads? I mean, I think up north
It's
they are.
if your K96 is KDOT, the exit is West Street. So, and then you have 37th Street for the front of where people would enter CDR North. Sometimes they come up from Zoo Boulevard. There are signs there to direct people going north.
I guess I would err on the side of, I think people want to do the right thing if they just know that it's a requirement. I think they would make a greater effort, if you will. They can always do the wrong thing, I suppose, but I don't want the fear of them choosing not to do the right thing, be the driver for us not to put those signs up. I think those signs would do a great deal of good. I think we should work with KDOT or whoever to see if we can get some signs designed and put up. I think, again, informational signs, I think it's just would go a long ways.
Yeah, I agree, and that could be part of the education program.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, Susan, I don't see any other comments, so once again, thank
Well,
you.
thank you.
All right, have a good day. Okay, Tom, anything
That's
else?
it for today, Chairman, Commissioners. I might also mention, we'd like to go back to the original room setup for staff, where we bring you back to the floor and have a rectangle. I'd like to get department heads back in here.
Sure.
Elected row offices, if they choose to come, should be welcome to come back in. So, but about a little bit back more to normal staff setting. And then similarly, we're looking at a little bit of a room change for commission meetings, to get a little bit more back to normal after pandemic time. So we'll keep you aware of that, but we might unfurl something on you next week with a little bit of a
Okay.
different room
All right.
setup. So.
Yeah. Sounds good. Okay. Anything else before the commission today? Thank you for everybody joining us, and thank you for the staff meeting. We'll see everybody tomorrow.